The city lights were cold and sharp, cutting through the night sky. Neon signs flickered above broken streets where people hurried past each other without care. In the middle of that crowd walked Ethan, a young man with tired eyes and clothes too thin for the season. He moved slowly, carrying a small bag of old tools he sometimes traded for food. His steps showed the weight of hunger and struggle, but there was also a strange, quiet strength in the way he looked around. Hidden among the shadows of the market street stood another figure, tall, calm, and wrapped in a long cloak that hid his unusual skin. Zorath watched the human boy with silent interest. To the crowd, he looked like a wealthy traveler. In truth, he was something far greater, an alien billionaire, older than most civilizations on this planet, carrying secrets of galaxies no human had ever seen. At first, Zorath had no reason to pay attention to Ethan. He had come to Earth for business, as he often did, seeking new technologies to buy and new places to expand his reach. But then he noticed something unusual. When Ethan lifted his hand to adjust his bag strap, the faint glow of a silver bracelet caught Zorath's eyes. The alien froze. His heart, if it could be called that, tightened. That bracelet was not ordinary. It was one of a kind. Long ago, centuries before, Zorath had given it to a human. It was not meant to be here now, on the wrist of a poor young man who looked like he barely had enough to eat. Zorath's sharp mind filled with questions. How did this boy get the bracelet? Did he steal it? Was it sold, or was there a connection? He stepped closer into the crowd, moving slowly so Ethan would not notice. The bracelet shimmered faintly again, as if answering Zorath's presence. That reaction unsettled him. He remembered clearly. The bracelet was a gift of trust, given to someone important, someone who had once saved his life. That person had promised to protect it, to pass it only to someone worthy. Now, generations later, it sat on the wrist of this struggling human. Ethan continued walking, unaware of the alien eyes studying him. He stopped at a food stall, counting the few coins in his pocket. He could not afford much. The vendor frowned, shook his head, and turned to the next customer. Ethan sighed, stepping back, but he did not complain. Instead, he noticed a child nearby who had dropped a small piece of bread on the ground. The child looked sad, almost ready to cry. Ethan smiled softly and bent down. From his own bag, he pulled out a smaller piece of bread he had saved for later. He gave it to the child without hesitation. Zorath watched this carefully. Most humans he had seen were greedy, always fighting for more, but this boy gave away the little he had. The alien's eyes narrowed. Strange, very strange. The bracelet caught another beam of neon light, and Zorath could see the old markings on its surface. He remembered those markings well. Symbols of his people, symbols that carried ancient power. It was not only jewelry. It was a key to something hidden long ago. Zorath's thoughts grew darker. If the bracelet had returned, then perhaps old enemies might return too. Enemies who once hunted for it. He clenched his hand inside the cloak. This was no small matter. For a long time he stood still, simply observing Ethan. The boy sat down near the edge of the market, eating nothing himself, only drinking from a bottle of water. He looked lonely, but there was a quiet fire in his eyes, as if he carried hope even in his hunger. Zorath felt an unexpected pull. He was not supposed to feel this way about humans. In his eyes, most of them were fragile, short-lived, and forgettable. Yet something about this boy and that bracelet felt important. Could destiny really work like this? Could a poor human be linked to something from so long ago? The bracelet glowed faintly once more, almost as if it was alive, almost as if it knew Zorath was watching. The alien billionaire's suspicion deepened. It seemed the object was reacting to Ethan in a way it had never reacted before. That meant the boy was not random. He was connected to the bracelet's purpose, but how? The crowd moved around them, loud and restless, but for Zorath, the world had grown quiet. His focus was locked only on Ethan. Every small action the boy took, every movement, every choice, Zorath studied it like a puzzle piece. At last, Ethan stood and walked into the darker streets, heading back to the small abandoned building he used as a home. Zorath followed from a distance, his steps silent, his mind racing. He did not yet reveal himself. No, not yet. He wanted to learn more, to watch longer. But deep inside, he already knew this boy was different. As the night grew colder, one truth formed in Zorath's mind. This poor human was not ordinary. The bracelet was not a mistake, and fate had just brought them together. The night was quiet except for the distant hum of city machines. In the ruins of an old building, Ethan sat on the floor with his back against a cracked wall. A single candle flickered near him, throwing weak light across the room. His stomach was empty, but he forced himself not to think about food. Instead, he looked at the silver bracelet on his wrist. He had worn it all his life. His father had told him never to lose it, never to sell it, never to give it away. Ethan never understood why, but he obeyed. Tonight, though, something was strange. The bracelet felt warm. It pulsed once like a heartbeat. Ethan frowned and rubbed his wrist. Weird, he whispered. Outside the broken window, hidden by shadows, Zorath watched. The alien billionaire had followed him from the market. He had studied the boy's every step. And now, as he saw the bracelet glow, his suspicions grew stronger. This was no accident. The bracelet was responding. To Ethan. For a long moment, Zorath debated what to do. Reveal himself now or wait? His instincts told him to act. He could not let this human slip away. With slow, careful steps, he walked to the doorway of the ruined building. Ethan heard the sound and stood quickly, alert like a cornered animal. His hand went to a rusty pipe lying on the ground. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice sharp but trembling. A tall figure stepped into the candlelight. A cloak covered most of him, but his presence was powerful, almost heavy. The stranger's voice was calm, deep, and strange. "I saw you today, in the market," the man said. Ethan gripped the pipe tighter. "Why were you following me?" Zorath's eyes fell on the bracelet. For a moment he ignored the question. He pointed slightly. "That on your wrist. Where did you get it?" Ethan hesitated. This was the first time anyone had ever asked about the bracelet. "It was my father's," he said at last. "He told me never to lose it. That's all." Zorath stepped closer. The candle flame bent as if pulled toward him. "Do you know what it is?" Ethan shook his head, confused. "Just a bracelet. Old, maybe valuable, but it's the only thing I have left of him. I'm not selling it." His voice grew stronger on those last words. The alien studied him carefully. Zorath could have laughed. The boy thought this was about money. He had no idea. "I could give you more than you can imagine," Zorath said slowly. "Food, shelter, even gold in return. You give me that bracelet." For a second, Ethan was tempted. Hunger screamed inside him, but then he clenched his fist. "No, I told you. It's mine." Silence fell. The firelight flickered across Zorath's eyes, which seemed older than the stars. He was not used to being refused. Humans usually bent easily to his will, but this boy said no without fear. The alien took another step. The bracelet reacted instantly. It glowed brighter, casting strange patterns across the wall. Ethan jumped back, shocked. "What the?" he gasped, staring at the light spreading from his wrist. Zorath's calm face hid his excitement. It recognizes him, he thought. The bond has begun. Ethan looked at the stranger with wide eyes. "What is this?" "What's happening to me?" Zorath's voice was steady. "It is not just a bracelet. It is a key, and it chose you." Those words landed heavy in the silence. Ethan felt fear rising in his chest. "A key to what?" he asked. Zorath did not answer right away. His thoughts were too tangled. Should he tell the boy everything? Or would that put him in danger too soon? He finally said, "To something hidden. Something that others will kill to find." Ethan's grip on the pipe loosened. He looked at the glowing band on his wrist, then at the tall figure. His voice was small but firm. "Who are you?" The cloak shifted as Zorath stood taller. His true form almost pushed through the disguise, but he forced it back. Not yet. He was not ready to reveal what he really was. "For now," he said, "think of me as someone who knows the truth." Ethan's heart raced. Part of him wanted to run. Part of him wanted to demand more answers. But before he could speak, the bracelet pulsed again, sending out a faint wave of energy. The candle blew out and the room was swallowed by darkness. Zorath's eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. "You feel it now, don't you? It's waking. And once it wakes, the world will never be the same." Ethan stood frozen, breathing hard. He wanted to believe it was all a trick, but deep inside he knew this was real. Too real. The warmth on his wrist was alive. The alien billionaire turned toward the door, his voice echoing softly. "Guard it well, boy, because others will come for it soon." And then he was gone, leaving Ethan alone in the dark, holding on to the only thing that connected him to a mystery far larger than he could imagine. Ethan looked down at the bracelet, the faint glow still fading on his skin. For the first time in his life, he felt that his father's words had carried a secret meaning. He whispered to himself, "What have you left me, Dad?" Outside in the silent streets, Zorath walked with long steps, his mind racing. The boy had refused wealth. He had shown courage. And most of all, the bracelet had chosen him. This was no ordinary human, and the true test had only just begun. The night felt heavier than usual. Ethan lay on the floor of his cold shelter, staring at the ceiling. Sleep refused to come. His mind kept replaying the stranger's words. "It is not just a bracelet. It is a key. And it chose you." He turned his wrist in the dim light. The silver band looked ordinary now, silent and still. But he remembered the glow, the heat, the pulse of energy. He pressed his fingers against it, whispering to himself, "Why me?" The city outside was restless. Sounds of machines, sirens, and people filled the night, but inside the room, time seemed to stop. Then, as the clock struck midnight, something changed. The bracelet warmed again. Slowly, gently. Ethan sat up quickly, his heart racing. A faint hum filled the air, like the vibration of hidden wires. The silver surface began to shimmer and strange glowing lines appeared, symbols he had never seen before. "Not again," Ethan whispered, but deep inside he knew this was only the beginning. The light grew brighter until it filled the room. Ethan shielded his eyes. When he looked again, he saw something impossible. A projection floating above the bracelet. It was like a map, made of golden threads of light twisting into shapes of stars and planets. Ethan gasped. He reached out and the projection shifted, almost reacting to his touch. He saw a path, a glowing line stretching across the stars, pointing towards somewhere far, far away. Suddenly, a voice echoed. Not from outside, but from within the bracelet itself. It was calm, mechanical, yet powerful. Bearer identified. Bloodline confirmed. Activation. Begun. Ethan's breath caught in his throat.
Bloodline?
What bloodline? The projection flickered, showing images too fast for him to understand. Tall beings with glowing eyes. A massive war among the stars. A hidden vault buried beneath strange mountains. Then it all vanished, leaving only silence and the faint glow of the bracelet. Ethan fell back, his chest rising and falling fast. His hands shook. What did that mean? My father, my family? Before he could think further, he felt a presence outside the building. His instincts screamed danger. Someone was watching. He grabbed the rusty pipe from earlier and moved to the window. His eyes searched the shadows. For a moment he saw nothing. Then, under the pale moonlight, he noticed the tall, cloaked figure, Zorath. Ethan's fear mixed with anger. He stormed to the door and shouted, "You again! What did you do to me?" Zorath stepped inside, calm as ever. His voice carried no rush, only certainty. "I did nothing. The bracelet has awakened on its own. It responds to your blood, to your spirit. That means only one thing. You are its rightful heir." Ethan's grip on the pipe tightened. "Stop talking like I'm supposed to understand. Why me? What do you want from me?" Zorath's gaze fixed on the glowing band. His alien eyes flickered for a brief second, betraying emotions he rarely showed. "Long ago I gave that bracelet to a human. A brave one. Someone who changed the fate of worlds. That human promised it would be passed down only to those who deserved it. Now after centuries it rests on your wrist. That means your bloodline is not ordinary." Ethan shook his head. "No. My father was just a mechanic. We were poor. We had nothing. Perhaps," Zorath said. "But he carried a secret he never told you. A promise he kept until his death." "That bracelet is proof." The boy staggered back, feeling the weight of the words. A secret bloodline? A destiny hidden all his life? It sounded insane, yet the glowing bracelet on his wrist was undeniable. Before Ethan could speak, the bracelet pulsed again. A burst of light shot outward, striking the walls, carving the same glowing symbols into the stone. The room trembled. Ethan fell to his knees, clutching his wrist. "What's happening?" he cried. Zorath's face hardened. "It's unlocking. The first stage. The true power is beginning to reveal itself." As the glowing symbols burned across the walls, a new projection appeared. This time it was clearer. An enormous door made of black stone covered in alien markings. A voice from the bracelet whispered again, "Vault location. Confirmed." Ethan stared at the image. A vault? What's inside? Zorath's voice dropped low. Knowledge, power, and danger. If it opens, others will come. They will not stop until they have it. Ethan looked up at him, his voice shaking. Others? Who? Zorath's cloak moved as he stepped closer, his tone serious. Enemies older than your world. They have hunted that bracelet for centuries. If they know it has awakened, they will come for you. Ethan's stomach twisted. His normal life, the market, the hunger, the loneliness, it all felt so small compared to this. He wanted to throw the bracelet away, but it was bound to him now, glowing like a second heartbeat. He whispered almost to himself, I didn't ask for this. Zorath crouched slightly, his gaze sharp but not unkind. No one ever asks for destiny. It chooses you. The question is, will you run from it or face it? The air grew heavy with silence. Ethan looked at the symbols glowing on the walls, then at the powerful stranger before him. His world had changed forever, and he knew there was no turning back. The bracelet pulsed one last time, its voice echoing softly. The path begins. Ethan closed his eyes, trying to steady his breath. He was no longer just a poor boy from the streets. Something inside him had awakened, something that tied him to a mystery older than the stars. And outside, beyond the city, far in the distance of space, other eyes were already watching. The night stretched into silence after the bracelet's last words. The path begins. Ethan sat on the cracked floor, his chest rising and falling fast. His hands trembled as the faint glow on his wrist finally faded, leaving only a dull silver band again. But the symbols burned into the walls still glowed softly, proof that what had happened was real. Zorath stood tall near the doorway, his cloak swaying slightly in the cold air. His alien eyes studied Ethan with unusual patience. He could see the confusion, the fear, and the spark of something else, curiosity. The boy was struggling, but he was not breaking. That meant there was hope. Ethan finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Tell me the truth, all of it. No more half answers. Zorath moved closer, the weight of his steps echoing in the hollow room. The truth is not simple, but you deserve to know. He stopped just a few feet away, his gaze fixed on the bracelet. That object is not human. It was created by my people, long before your world had cities. It carries power and memory. It is both a weapon and a key. Ethan swallowed hard. A key to what? Zorath's voice lowered. To a vault hidden deep in this world. A vault that holds technology and knowledge from a forgotten age. Enough to change planets. Enough to destroy them. Ethan's eyes widened. And you gave it away? To a human? For the first time, Zorath's eyes softened. Memories pulled at him, heavy and sharp. Yes, long ago I was not what I am now. I was hunted, wounded, almost killed. On this very planet, a human saved me. He had no reason to. He had no weapon, no strength, nothing but courage. He risked everything for a stranger. For me? He paused, his jaw tightening. I gave him the bracelet as a gift. A bond of trust. I told him it would guide his bloodline if danger ever returned. He swore it would be passed down only to those worthy. I never thought, after all this time, it would end up with you. Ethan lowered his gaze to the bracelet. His heart felt heavy. So my father. He knew about this? Zorath's voice carried quiet certainty. He knew enough. He carried the responsibility, even if he never spoke of it. Perhaps he wanted to protect you from the truth, or perhaps he believed you were not ready, until now. Ethan felt his throat tighten. He thought of his father, his smile, his rough hands from working as a mechanic, his endless advice to stay strong. He had never imagined there was more to the story, that his father had been part of something so enormous. He never told me, Ethan whispered. Not once. Zorath studied him closely. Sometimes silence is the greatest protection. If you had known too early, others might have found you. They might have killed you for it. The weight of the words sank into Ethan like cold iron. He suddenly understood why his father had always seemed distant, always worried. It had not been just poverty. It had been fear. Fear of the secret being discovered. Ethan's anger rose. So now what? You expect me to just take this on? Fight some war I don't understand? Zorath's voice remained calm, but it carried force. You are already part of it. The moment the bracelet awakened, it marked you. Enemies will feel it. They will search for you. Whether you like it or not, you are in the path of destiny. Ethan's fists clenched. He wanted to throw the bracelet off, but it clung to his wrist like it was part of him. He could feel it. Alive. Watching. Waiting. The alien billionaire took a deep breath. Something rare for him. He rarely explained himself to anyone. But this boy was different. I did not follow you to harm you, Zorath said softly. I followed you because you may be the last chance to keep the vault out of the wrong hands. If the enemies who once hunted me find it, they will not just take this world. They will burn it. The room grew colder. Ethan thought of the hungry children in the streets, the people in the market, the fragile life of the city. The idea of it all being destroyed made his chest ache. He looked up at Zorath. Why me? I'm nobody. I can barely feed myself. Zorath's answer came without hesitation. That is why. Power in the wrong hands corrupts. But you, hungry, poor, yet willing to give your bread to a child, you are not ruled by greed. The bracelet chose you because of your spirit, not your wealth. Ethan stared at him stunned. He remembered the market earlier, giving his last piece of food to the child. He had thought it was nothing. But maybe somehow it had meant everything. The silence between them stretched, heavy, but not empty. Ethan finally lowered his voice. If what you say is true, then what happens next? Zorath's cloak shifted as he turned toward the glowing symbols on the walls. His tone darkened. Next, we prepare. Because the vault has already called out. And if I felt it, others have too. The words hit Ethan like a storm. His chest tightened, fear clawing at him. But beneath the fear, a spark of something else flickered. Resolve. He looked down at the silver band, glowing faintly once more. His father's words echoed in his memory. Never lose it, son. Never let it go. Now he finally understood why. Ethan stood slowly, his voice steady though his hands shook. Then show me. Show me what I need to do. For the first time, Zorath allowed a small smile to form. It was not warm, but it carried respect. Very well, the path of revelation has begun. Outside, far beyond Earth's sky, in the silent dark of space, something stirred. Shadows moved among the stars. Eyes that had waited for centuries suddenly turned toward the tiny blue planet. The hunt had begun. The city was still asleep when Zorath led Ethan through the dark streets. The boy walked fast to keep up, his mind buzzing with questions. The bracelet felt heavier than ever on his wrist, glowing faintly with every step as if it knew where they were going. Ethan finally asked, "Where are you taking me?" Zorath's cloak shifted as he moved. His voice was steady like stone. "To a place hidden for centuries. If you are truly chosen, the bracelet will prove it. If not..." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Then we will know." Ethan frowned. "Know what?" "That you are unworthy." The words sent a chill down Ethan's spine. He wanted to argue, but something in Zorath's tone told him this was not an empty threat. This was a test, and failure might mean more than embarrassment. It might mean death. They left the city behind and entered the ruins of an old mountain road. The path twisted upward, silent except for the crunch of rocks under their boots. The air grew colder, sharper, as if the mountain itself was warning them to turn back. After hours of climbing, they reached a hidden cave, sealed by massive stone doors covered in strange markings. The symbols glowed faintly, the same as the ones that had burned into the walls of Ethan's shelter the night before. Ethan stared, wide-eyed. "What is this place?" Zorath stepped forward, his voice low. "An ancient vault of my people. It was built long before your kind could dream of flight. Only the bracelet can open it. Try." Ethan's stomach nodded. He raised his hand, the silver band glowing brighter. The doors trembled at his touch as though recognizing him. Suddenly, beams of light shot across the stone, connecting the markings like a puzzle being solved. The ground shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Slowly, the doors began to part, releasing a deep, cold breath of air from within. Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. It's opening." Zorath's expression did not change, though his sharp eyes followed every movement. "Good. Now we see if you can face what lies inside. The doors opened fully, revealing a massive chamber carved from black stone. The walls were lined with alien symbols that shifted and moved like living things. Strange machines stood in silence, their surfaces glowing with hidden energy. At the center of the chamber was a pedestal, and upon it rested a crystal sphere, shining like a captured star. Ethan whispered, "It's beautiful." Zorath's voice was sharp. "Do not be fooled. Beauty often hides danger. Step forward. The vault is alive. It will test you." Ethan swallowed hard and took a step into the chamber. The moment his foot touched the floor, the bracelet pulsed and the room came alive. The walls lit up. Machines awakened, and beams of light formed a circle around him. Suddenly a voice echoed, deep and commanding. "Bearer detected. Verification required. Commence trial." The ground shifted beneath Ethan, and in front of him, shapes began to form. Constructs of light and energy. They looked like warriors, tall and armed with glowing blades. Ethan's heart pounded. "What is this?" Zorath stood outside the circle, his face unreadable. "The vault will not open fully without proof. You must survive the test. Only then will it accept you as its heir." The first warrior lunged. Ethan barely dodged, the glowing blade slicing the air where his head had been. He stumbled back, panic in his chest. He had no weapon, no training. How could he fight this? The bracelet pulsed again. A burst of light shot from it, forming a shimmering shield around Ethan's arm. Instinct took over. When the second warrior attacked, Ethan raised the shield. The blade struck, sparks flying, but the shield held. Ethan gasped in shock. "It's protecting me," another warrior charged. This time, the bracelet pulsed harder, and the shield shifted into a glowing blade in Ethan's hand. He swung clumsily, but the light weapon cut straight through the warrior, dissolving it into sparks. Zorath's eyes narrowed. So the bond is real. It responds to him. Ethan fought wildly, fear driving his movements, but the bracelet guided him. Each pulse seemed to tell him when to move, when to block, when to strike. One by one, the glowing warriors fell, vanishing into light until the chamber grew silent once more. Breathless, Ethan dropped to his knees, the shield fading back into the bracelet. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. I did it." The voice of the vault echoed again, calm and final. "Bearer verified. Access granted." The pedestal in the center lit up, and the crystal sphere rose into the air. Energy flowed into the bracelet, making it glow brighter than ever before. Ethan stared at the light, awe and fear mixing in his heart. He turned to Zorath. "What is this thing? What did I just unlock?" For the first time, Zorath's voice carried something rare. Unease. "That, boy, is only the beginning. The sphere contains knowledge, but it also sends a signal. Others will know the vault has been opened." Ethan's stomach twisted. "Others? You mean the enemies you talked about?" Zorath nodded slowly, his gaze hard. "Yes, and now they will come." The chamber shook again, as if the mountain itself had heard the words. Dust fell from above, and the walls seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Ethan looked at the bracelet glowing like fire on his wrist. His voice was quiet but steady. "Then I guess the test isn't over." Zorath's eyes locked onto him, sharp as blades. "No, it has only just begun." The vault's chamber still glowed faintly, but the storm inside had ended. The crystal sphere floated above the pedestal, humming softly like a heart that had just awakened after centuries of sleep. Ethan stood in the circle, exhausted, his body trembling from the trial. Sweat dripped down his forehead, but his eyes burned with new fire. He looked at the bracelet on his wrist, still glowing with faint blue light. It helped me fight," he whispered, half in disbelief. Zorath stepped forward at last, his cloak brushing against the black stone floor. His voice was low, steady but edged with urgency. "It does not help. It chooses. It gave you its strength because it believes you can carry it." Ethan shook his head. "I'm not strong. I don't even know what I'm doing." "You survived the vault's guardians," Zorath replied firmly. That is more than most of my kind could do. Whether you believe it or not, the bracelet has bound itself to you. You are its bearer now. Ethan's chest tightened. The words felt too heavy, too final. He wanted to deny them, to throw the bracelet away, but when he touched it, he felt warmth, almost like a heartbeat. It was part of him now. The chamber trembled suddenly, a low rumble echoing through the stone walls. Ethan spun, alarmed. What was that? Zorath's eyes darkened. The vault's opening has sent a signal. I warned you. Others will know. And they will come. Ethan's pulse raced. Who exactly are these others? Zorath turned his gaze upward, toward the ceiling of rock above them, as if he could see through the mountain to the stars beyond. His voice lowered, heavy with memory. They are called the Kralith, hunters of worlds. Long ago they sought the bracelet to open this vault and claim the power for themselves. We fought them back, but they never stopped searching. If they sense its awakening, they will descend on this planet. Ethan's face went pale. And what will they do if they find it here? Zorath looked at him with sharp, cold eyes. They will burn your world until nothing is left but ash. The silence that followed was louder than thunder. Ethan's stomach twisted. The idea of losing the city, the children in the streets, the people struggling to survive, even the flickering neon lights that gave him comfort, made his chest ache. He whispered, No, that can't happen. The sphere pulsed brighter, and the voice of the vault echoed once more. Bearer confirmed. The path has begun. Prepare for convergence. The word convergence hung in the air like a shadow. Ethan looked to Zorath, confused and afraid. What does that mean? It means, Zorath said grimly, that your world is no longer hidden. The signal has reached the stars. They know where you are. The walls around them dimmed, the glow fading as if the vault itself was retreating back into silence. The doors began to close again, sealing the chamber. Ethan stumbled forward, but Zorath caught his arm. Do not fear the closing, Zorath said. The vault will open to you again. For now, we must leave. Time is running out. Together, they stepped back into the cold mountain air. The night sky stretched above them, filled with countless stars. Ethan looked up, but this time he did not see beauty. He saw threat. Somewhere out there in that endless black, enemies were already on their way. The wind howled around them, carrying a chill that sank into Ethan's bones. He hugged his arms around himself. If they're so powerful, how can I fight them? I'm just one person. Zorath stood tall beside him, his cloak billowing like a shadow. You are not just one person. You carry the will of your bloodline. And now you carry the trust of the bracelet. But strength is nothing without choice. You must decide if you will run from destiny or face it. Ethan turned his gaze to the stars, his mind racing. Fear screamed at him to run, to hide, to go back to the broken shelter where life was simple. But deep down, another voice whispered, if you run, they will destroy everything. The memory of the child in the market came back to him, the hungry little boy who had smiled when Ethan gave away his last piece of bread. That small act, that moment, now felt like the beginning of something far larger. He clenched his fists. I don't want to run. Zorath studied him for a long moment, then gave a slight nod. Good, then we prepare. The test was only the first step. What comes next will demand more than courage. It will demand sacrifice. Ethan looked at him sharply. Sacrifice? What kind? Zorath did not answer immediately. His alien eyes gleamed faintly in the moonlight. You will learn soon enough. For now, understand this. Every step you take will draw them closer. Every moment you hesitate will cost lives. The mountain shook again, a distant rumble rolling through the ground. Ethan felt it in his chest like a warning from the earth itself. He looked up once more at the endless sky, and for the first time he thought he saw movement, dark shapes among the stars. Zorath's voice cut through the wind. They are coming! Ethan swallowed hard, his heart pounding. The bracelet pulsed faintly as if agreeing. The poor boy from the streets was no longer invisible. He had been seen, marked, chosen, and now the hunters of worlds were on their way. The storm had not yet reached Earth, but its shadow was already here. The mountain was silent after the tremors faded, but the silence was not comforting. It felt heavy, waiting like the pause before a storm. Ethan stood on the rocky ledge beside Zorath, staring at the stars above. They no longer looked distant. They looked alive, watching. The bracelet pulsed against his wrist, faint but steady like a drumbeat in his skin. He could almost hear whispers, fragments of words he couldn't understand, as if the artifact itself was urging him to be ready. Ethan finally broke the silence. "If they're really coming." "How long before they get here?" Zorath's gaze never left the sky. His voice was low, calm, but edged with steel. "Not long. The Kralith are hunters. They can follow signals faster than light. By now they know where we are." Ethan's chest tightened. His thoughts raced to the city below, the crowded market, the children running between broken stalls, the families trying to survive another night. If ships came down from the sky, those people wouldn't stand a chance. "I have to warn them," Ethan said, stepping forward. "I can't just let them die." Zorath placed a firm hand on his shoulder. The weight of it was strong, almost unshakable. "Listen carefully, boy. If you warn them without proof, they will laugh. Humans are stubborn creatures. They believe only what they see. By the time they see the threat, it will be too late." Ethan stared at him, frustration burning in his chest. "So what am I supposed to do? Just wait for the sky to fall?" Zorath's sharp eyes turned toward him, gleaming faintly in the moonlight. "You prepare. The bracelet is not only a key, it is a weapon. It will teach you if you listen, and I will teach you what your people cannot." Ethan wanted to argue, but deep inside he knew Zorath was right. He wasn't ready, not yet, but every beat of the bracelet reminded him that time was running out. The wind shifted suddenly. A cold gust swept across the ledge. Ethan shivered, pulling his worn jacket tighter around him. Then he saw it, far above the city, high in the atmosphere, a streak of light cutting through the sky. At first he thought it was a comet, but then another streak followed, and another. Dozens of them, burning trails across the heavens, moving in formation. His voice cracked. "Are those?" Zorath's face hardened, his voice grim. "Kralith ships." Ethan's stomach dropped. The hunters weren't just coming. They were already here. The streaks grew brighter, descending lower, breaking apart into groups. Even from the mountain, Ethan could see faint outlines, sharp, dark vessels shaped like blades slicing through the atmosphere. The air around them shimmered with unnatural energy. The ground trembled as the first ship pierced the sky with a thunderous roar. Ethan covered his ears, eyes wide with terror. In the distance, he heard faint screams from the city below. People had noticed. Panic was already spreading. Zorath's cloak whipped violently in the wind as he stood tall. "They waste no time. They will search for you, for the bracelet, and they will kill anyone who stands in their way." Ethan's heart pounded. "Then we fight." The words left his mouth before he could think. Zorath's sharp eyes snapped toward him. For a moment, there was silence between them. Then, to Ethan's surprise, the alien billionaire gave a small approving nod. "Good, but remember, courage without wisdom is suicide. If you die, the bracelet dies with you, and then the galaxy falls." Ethan gritted his teeth. His fear was real, almost crushing, but he refused to let it stop him. Not after everything. Not after what his father had carried. He raised his wrist, the bracelet glowing brighter, pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. For the first time, he didn't see it as a burden. He saw it as a promise. The ships drew closer, their shadows blotting out the stars. The air vibrated with their engines, heavy and alien. From the largest vessel, beams of red light scanned the surface, sweeping across mountains and valleys like searching eyes. One of the beams passed over the ledge. Ethan flinched, shielding his face. The bracelet flared in response, sending out a faint wave of blue light. The red beam snapped instantly toward them, locking on like a predator sensing prey. Ethan's blood ran cold. "They saw us." Zorath's hand tightened on his shoulder. His voice was sharp, commanding. "Then there is no more time. You must decide. Run and hide or fight at my side." Ethan looked at him, fear warring with fire in his eyes. His voice trembled, but his words carried steel. "I'm not running. Not anymore." The bracelet glowed fiercely, brighter than ever, as if answering his choice. Energy crackled along its surface, humming with power. Above them, the massive ship shifted, its weapons charging with a deep, thunderous hum that shook the mountain itself. Smaller ships broke away, descending toward the city, their lights casting red shadows across the streets. The night sky burned with invasion. Ethan's pulse hammered in his chest, but he stood firm, his hand clenched into a fist. Zorath drew back his cloak, revealing for the first time a glimpse of the alien armor beneath, black and sharp as the void. The air between them crackled with energy. The storm had arrived, and as the first blast of fire rained down from the heavens, Ethan whispered to himself, barely audible under the roar, "Dad, I'll make you proud." The screen of fire lit the night sky. The war for Earth had begun,